Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Aye, that sounds good. It feels good. It's good to see all of you here. Before they do anything else, I want to give all you a round of applause. Just right. It's good to have all you here. Some of you may know that I am a recovering drug addict, but you may not know that I'm also a rehab counselor. And as a rehab counselor, when a family is in crisis, my phone does ring, because they just want us to do what you call an intervention. An intervention is where we move in, meet with the family, get a sense of what the problem is, so we could work together to find a solution. This evening is not a political meeting. This is an intervention, because we are in crisis. Yeah? The TNT family is in crisis. All is not lost. Crises come up in life from time to time. All is not lost. There's a crisis, and we are here. So we're going to do the necessary intervention. From you, we will hear, and from others, we will hear where the problems lie. And the thing with interventions is have to work together to fix it. Yeah? So that's the tone I want us to have in our minds while we're here and while we attend every NTA event. Let me introduce you to our first speaker, shall I? Mr. Paul Daniel Nahus. He's our coordinator for Northwest in the National Transformation Alliance. Paul is a certified anti-terrorism, law enforcement and security professional. That's some good qualification. Anti-terrorism, you know. Sometimes I feel terrified. Nonetheless, he's also a trained SWAT sniper leader. He has served as an alderman and chairman of disaster preparedness and response, security, and environmental management in the Diego Martin Regional Corporation. Our coordinator, Northwest, is a member of our national governance team with responsibility for developing and maintaining relationships with communities, with residents, and organizations to achieve shared goals, and he also coordinates logistics for in-person and virtual meetings. My friends, as we start off our intervention this evening with some love, let's welcome Paul.
Trinidad is my land, and of it I am proud and glad. But I can't understand why some people must talk it bad. But I know.
Thank you, Mr. MC, for that lovely intro. Welcome all. I'm not going to go through the protocols. I'll just say all protocols observed. And I thank you for being here today, for taking your time to come here. And a special thanks, of course, to our political leader, Mr. Gary Griffith, for really being the person to, and I won't say brainstorm, but to get all this together and to really come. Thank you for the team that has worked very, very, very tirelessly to get all this together. And with that being said, I was introduced, and some of you all will know me. Many of you all I think I've seen before and know me in some capacity and some light. Some of you all will know that after leaving the corporation as an alderman and the chairman for disaster security environment, I said I would never go back into politics. I will never be back involved in this type of thing again. Why? Because I saw little change that I could have made in that capacity. I felt confined, and confined by myopic leadership, by a council that just didn't want to see things go forward. And now I'm part of an organization and a party that wants things to go forward and has given me the freedom to speak on the issues that I know about, and is not trying to confine any expertise, but rather let things grow and let us go forward as a nation. And that is something that I deeply appreciate. And that is why I am back involved in this, for those who would be asking. Most of you all, if not everyone here, would know that I was also part of Mr. Griffith's strategic command team in the TTPS, whereby, I'm not going to go over the stats and bore everyone to sleep tonight, where the crime situation was wrestled under control and was quickly becoming under control, where murders and homicides were going down, where crime across the board was going down. And I'm very proud to say that I'm seeing some members of that team in this audience giving us support tonight. And I thank you especially for coming out here and for being part of this new movement. I'm going to touch on two things tonight. Very briefly on the crime situation, the crisis we are facing, and also on the Diego Martin region. I have jokingly said that my first, second, and third priority in being in this party now is to plan for the Diego Martin region. That's the region I was from, born and grown and raised in, and that is where I served as an alderman, and I am deeply connected to this region. In terms of the crime situation, I don't have to really go over that. We all know the country is in crisis, not just in crime, but everything. Crime, healthcare, social services, everything. The situation now is completely unacceptable in terms of the lack of safety, the insecurity we feel as law-abiding citizens in this nation. We have reached a state where it feels like we are trapped and we are prisoners of the criminals. Many of us will feel like prisoners even in our own homes, and not even safe in our own homes. And that is something that we do intend to change on a national level, or I at least intend to pursue that tirelessly on a national level. What I really want to speak about tonight is Diego Martin, as I am the coordinator for the region. As I said, first, second, and third priority is the Diego Martin region because that is what I am gearing that change towards. I firmly believe and have said over the years that somebody cannot fix everything. If we all fix our little corner, we will have a better society and a better nation. If we all do our job and fix what we can fix and are capable of fixing. And I'm very sure the coordinators for the other regions feel the same way. Right now, and as I've touched on the crime situation, this is not a spike. Bad roads is not just roads not being maintained for a short period of time. The crime situation is not a spike. The drop in healthcare is not just a drop in healthcare. It's now normalized. We have normalized high crime. We have normalized 2 and 3 murders a day. We have normalized driving on bad roads. We have normalized deplorable healthcare and access to social services. And why? Because we feel powerless. If we could do something, we would. I'm sure each and every one of us would do something if we could. And despite our efforts, we are faced with seemingly an immovable object. Well, tonight I'm saying that is not an immovable object. We are going to move that object that's in the way of proper governance in this country. Going into the Diego Martin region, now it was said recently by someone, I'm not going to call names, I'm not here to call names, but someone said one man can't make a difference. Then I want to know why one man made a difference in crime in 3 years. I want to know. And that one man comment is not the man alone did it. You're not expecting, let's just say for example, a prime minister to go and patch a road, a commissioner of police to go and investigate and charge a man for something. The leader's job is to pick the right people and to lead the right team. And that is what was done in the TTPS, and that is what I intend to do in the Diego Martin region in terms of picking the right team, getting the right players, and allowing them to do what they're here to do. The Diego Martin region has many challenges, as those who live here would know. Recently, a lot with disaster, a lot with flooding and these type of things going on. So I'll just go over very, very briefly some, not initiatives, but some direction for the region. In the region, we have an issue with roads, and not just road maintenance, but environmental maintenance. We see those who are environmentally inclined are seeing that we are facing a lot of problem with flooding, and that comes from environmental erosion in environment. That comes from not maintaining environment properly. We are seeing, I believe it was yesterday, that the howler monkey was put back on a protected species list. We are seeing a drop in our wildlife, and these things are not being attended to. These things are not being taken on. We are seeing even cases of animal cruelty, and the attitude that people in power have, well, I'm not taking on no dog and that kind of thing, but that is part of our country. All of that is part of our country. Proper maintenance for roads, proper maintenance for the environment. A disaster response that is not a headless chicken. When I was there as the chairman of disaster, Diego Martin boasted that we had the best trained, most highly trained and certified disaster relief team in the country. The Diego Martin, during the years of 2016 to 2019, our disaster center operated independent of the ODPM. We communicated with them, we contacted them. When the ODPM came to see what we had put up in disaster, we had our own room. We had our own center. We ran our own drills. We coordinated with everybody. By the time ODPM contacted for flood season, all late. We done the drills with TSTT, with regiment, with everybody involved. We're ready to go. And as every disaster hit, we hit the ground running and we controlled it. And that came also as well with good disaster preparedness. Making sure simple things, simple maintenance that we can't seem to get right in the last couple of years here. Making sure that the drains are cleaned. Making sure that we take care, we plant trees. Making sure we do short, medium, and long-term things to prevent disaster. That, coupled with a proper response team, is what we need in region to control disaster situation. Former disaster manager said, we can't control how the land is. We're in a valley. When tide is high, when rain is sustained, we can't control that. But what we can control is we can lower the risk of it, and we can have proper disaster preparedness for when things go wrong. And that is what we had, and that is after 2019, when I left, that is what we lost. And I plan to bring that back into focus. We also have a big issue in terms of corporations all over the country. Anyone here ever tried to apply for permissions for anything in corporation? And feel like those of us who have hair feel like you're pulling out your hair trying to get permissions? We need to, we need to streamline processes, cut out some of the red tape and bureaucracy. Make sure that when the residents of the region come, that they understand the corporation is not to serve the bureaucracy and the politicians. The corporation is to serve the residents of the area and to simplify those things. Also in the region, I would like to see we now expanded the municipal police, as in nationally. How much police patrols you see in far less municipal police? The proper utilization of municipal police as a crime prevention method. Proper community policing by the municipal police. Getting more involved with the community activities. We had an issue that those in Diego Martin well know about vending. People talking about illegal vending, legal vending, all this kind of thing with vending. Yet you're seeing vendors under a sign, mark no vending. And somebody will be moved today and not moved tomorrow. We need to regulate the vending industry. And when I say regulate, I'm not talking about moving vendors, cutting out people's work, or just looking at one side of things. I'm talking about having zones where vendors and having processes and applications and places in which vendors could come and they could apply their trade in a responsible manner. What I term it is opportunity with responsibility. Once they're responsible and they fall within the regulations, we make it easy to begin vending within these control measures. In terms of the wider campaign for Diego Martin, one thing I plan to do is I plan to listen a lot. Trying from Friday to start having cottage meetings. Not to tell people, come vote for us, come support us, but to listen to the residents, find out what problems are localized in the region and how we can address them. I want to hear every complaint, every problem. I want to hear everything because I want to address everything. And this comes in the spirit of working together. People like to say that we involve in Trinidad and Tobago in top-down politics. Well, I call it bubble-up politics. I want to hear it from the ground, bubble up, and we take those concerns. No executive decision based on what we feel. We want to hear what the concerns are, we want to pan it out, and we want to make a situation that is reasonable and facilitates everybody we can and the stakeholders. Not forgetting that we are coming into play here to serve the public, not to serve ourselves. And the only way to do that is to have a spirit of cooperation and to do so as part of a bigger community together. And I will just close off by saying, in the words of Mary Harris Jones, we must stand together. If we don't, there will be no victory for any of us. Thank you.
Trinidad is my land, and of it I am proud and glad. But I can't understand why some people must.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very, very much. I heard two words jumping out at me inside there like never before. And one is preparedness. Yeah? And we have to be prepared. We have to always be prepared for everything in life because anything can happen anytime. Wait now. Standing room only. I'm going to take our next round of applause. I have about 3 seats in the middle there. If you want to sit, we have about 3 seats in the middle on this side. The other thing is regulating vending. So you know, but when we say vending, not cocaine and them kind of thing, and not that kind of vending, all right? So don't get carried away. Next up, my friends, I want to introduce a gentleman I'm sure you all know. And he's a good buddy of mine. His name is Philip Murray. He's a community manager for the National Transformation Alliance. Mr. Murray is a Calypsonian and extempo artist. Black Sage.
Sailing on the earth, I go sail on it. Oh
Black Sage is a man with interest in community empowerment, national service, you name it. He worked in the corporation already, and he rolled up his sleeves and ready to work again. Is that correct?
You're quite correct.
Play the man music for me.
If Trinidad is a boat sailing on the earth, I go sail on it. Oh Lord, I go sail on it.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all our specially invited guests. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Now, we have a saying, we say, God is a Trinidadian. Do you know where that come from? That come from since the time of Columbus. When Columbus was leaving on his third voyage, before he left, he went and prayed. And he made a solemn vow to the Most High God that the first land he find, he's going to name it after the Trinity, which is the Catholic God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now, when he hit Trinidad, what is the first thing he saw? 3 hills. So you see the connection, the divine connection there. And that is why I always say Trinbago is blessed. However, because we are blessed, that doesn't mean we go sit back or rock back, as the youth say, and allow matters to take its course. No. What we have to do, we have to appoint or put people who can lead us. Because the blind cannot lead the blind unless they get to the brink of the abyss. I saw that somewhere. The blind can't lead the blind. So you need people with vision. You need leaders with vision. Leaders who have a plan. And that's why we have the National Transformation Alliance. Because we believe, we know we can make a difference. Now, what is the whole meaning behind the National Transformation Alliance? First, I go take national. We have a national vision, a vision for the nation, an all-embracing vision. I look across here and I see a wide cross-section of my community. I see every different creed, every different race symbolized and represented in this room. And that's the kind of vision we want. As my partner Blacks used to say, all you come in, we want everybody involved. We want the nation involved. We want Tobago involved. We want the youth particularly involved. Right now, sometimes I leave home in the morning, and I see some of the young people on the block lying. I come back in the evening, and I see them the same way. How do we address that? No, this is not a party position. This is my personal common sense position. If you go to school and you get your 5 passes, okay, you enter the world of academia, you do your A-levels, you go to university, and you progress in life like that. If you don't get your 5 passes, we have to implement something called national service, a 2-year national service, where the youth could learn a skill or a trade to be of use in building the nation. Because we can't have a lot of... We can't have a lot of unqualified youth who can't even work. Some of them, even if you give them an 8 to 4 job, they don't have the discipline to sit down in a library or in an office for 8 to 4. They could learn a skill, they could learn a trade, we could save them. It's a national vision. And everybody has to be involved, everybody has to be supportive, and we had to have the leaders who could convey and articulate that vision. And I believe we have a team that could put that vision into practice. Transformation. There are a lot of things in the nation that needs to be transformed. A lot of things. I look across the world and I see transformation taking place. England, a new prime minister, she is 47 years old. She's not in her 70s and so on. She's 47. Grenada, the Grenadian prime minister is 42 years old. Guyana, the president was just here recently. he's in his 40s. You know, I always maintain, right, that Guyanese oil could have made petroleum viable. Could have more than made petroleum viable. We have the oldest oil industry in the world, one of the oldest oil industries in the world. We could have formed an accommodation with Guyana before ExxonMobil come on. I don't know what kind of deal they made there, but I know it will be quite advantageous to ExxonMobil, also to Guyana. But we could have been a part of that, and we can still be. They spoke about agriculture and so on, but that, the oil, the billions of barrels of oil that's coming from Guyana, some of that could have gone to Petrotrin, and there was no need to put all them workers on the sideline, on the breadline. We see what happened with the scrap iron industry. No, there was a guy living in the valley, Pioneer Drive. When I was a counselor, I used to see him up there. He used to go around the area taking all the old car and old scrap iron and thing, and well, he will sell it and make a little living for himself and all that. Now, instead of, as they say, using a hammer to kill a fly, I'm not saying that every scrap iron dealer was trustworthy here, because I know when they put metal manhole covers to go up Moncoko Road, just one road, every single one was removed, almost every single one. But instead of destroying or banning the industry, we could have regulated it, you know, so the people could still live and they won't have to be blocking the road and lighting tire and lighting fire and complaining and so on that you took bread out of their mouth. Right? That kind of thinking needs to be transformed. We need to engage people a little bit more. Teachers shouldn't be staying home on the first day of a new school year to rest and reflect. And you could you imagine somebody common entrance students, he now passed for QRC or CIC or some other beautiful school, and oh gosh, first day he can't go to school because miss stay home or sir stay home. We could have engaged them before and talked to them. The unions and the government don't have to be in a war, always loggerheads pulling and tugging with each other. We could have a certain conversation with them. We could transform them things. Agreed, we need to transform agriculture. We need to transform some of our little mindset, some of the Trinbagonian mindset. You know, I see Venezuelans coming here on Charlotte Street before 8 o'clock, they line up, waiting to work, and Trini not working. We need to transform that kind of thing. We need to get a little more ambitious. You know, a long time in school, we used to want to come first in tests. There was a competition for that. We want to come first. We want to pass. I got my school prize for English, by the way. Today we see students going to school for fun. They're going to school with no books. We need to change that too. So there's a lot of things that needs to be changed. Even the politics. I saw they called a meeting of all the councillors. All the councillors, they have been a meeting to discuss certain matters. You know, the opposition told the councillors not to go. That is not nice politics. That's very obstructionist. And we can't go along with that because all are we in this together, you know, government and opposition. If Trinidad prosper, all of us prosper. If it fall, all are we fall. So there are things a party could support, and there are things that, no, we don't take that position. But we don't have to be obstructionists and we vex with Rowley and we vex with this one. No. We could have sensible, well-meaning discussion and come to some kind of consensus for the national good. The national good should come first. Alliance. Without an alliance, they would have never won World War II. Hitler would have never been defeated without an alliance. I don't say you go and join party for joining sake, but we, as a party, we have to make alliances. We have to make alliances with the youth. We have to make alliances with labor. We have to create alliances with industry. We have to make alliances with our own people, with the youth, with the rich, with the poor. It has to be an inclusive vision. Everybody must feel that need to work and to assist in developing and building Trinidad and Tobago. And I am leaving out Tobago. Somehow Tobago has always showed us the way. Remember, they broke away from P&M and went to Mr. A.N.R. Robinson and his DAC. Then they came back to P&M with Mr. Orville London. And now they're going back again, showing us the way defeating Dr. Rowley in Tobago by, I think, a 14-1 margin. Tobago has showed us the way this is a pattern, and it could be replicated right here. But we need to do the work. We need to make the preparation. We need to sell the vision. And we can't do this without the help of the people at Trinidad and Tobago, without establishing that alliance, that National Transformation Alliance, and lead the nation to that beacon of light you see there, having a bridge that could unite and not a wall to divide. So the very symbol of the party is very important and very instructive. So I sincerely hope that the nation can buy into our vision. And in this way, we could achieve the success that we need. We know it is in a sort of crisis, but as Errol said, we need to make an intervention. All is not lost. This is the start of the intervention, and we are going to carry it through. And by the grace of God, we will succeed. I thank you very much.
If Trinidad is a boat sailing on the earth, I go sail on it. Oh Lord, I go sail on it.
Thank you very, very, very much. I noticed he didn't have a paper, so that was extempo too, eh? Right, so I'm just saying. Yeah. You know, too much and too often we tend to look to find a savior. Somebody will come to fix everything. That person is not coming. There's no person who's coming to fix everything. We have to get prepared to roll up our sleeves and work to fix what needs to be fixed here in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We must. We must. All right? So I want to keep you in tune with the ethos and the spirit and everything that's happening here. This is not about come and lend your support or get a party card or put a $20. That is not what this is. This is come to work, right? We have a parlor and we have a lady running the parlor, but we don't go there at all. We don't go by the parlor. And then we come and we vex when she ain't fix the door and the stock not there and money missing and thing. But as an owner, you need to turn up. And we are owners, and it's time for us to turn up. We've been abandoning our job for too long as owners. All right? So I want to introduce our next lady. Our next lady I know you all love. We've all supported in so many different ways. She is a businesswoman and an executive and communications consultant, also a former chairman of the Congress of the People. I speak of no less a person than Nicole Dyer Griffith, also a former candidate for Diego Martin. Please make her welcome.
What don't kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them sink me under ice, so ride out the storm, them just like a boat. So as the box me down, so I get up, they have to wonder.
Let the verse play out.
And every crack I see, I just see through. And by the help of God, I just get through. I just won't stop. I feel like hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. And before I begin, I'd just like to recognize Errol and those of you who would have decided at some point that this is the political organization that you'd like to throw your hat in the ring with. Errol, I know for one, had made mention to us at some point in time that he would have never been formally part of any political entity. So I feel whatever it was, Errol, that drew you to the National Transformation Alliance, and I'm sure you'll share that at some point, I want to thank you for making this the organization of choice. And I want to welcome all of you who are also seriously contemplating making that same decision. Seems as though we should have had a larger space, because I know there are those who are listening now, because I believe that we've now started to stream live, yes, Tim? So it seems as though we should have had a larger space. Be that as it may, thank you again, Chair and ladies and gentlemen, political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, Mr. Gary Griffith, deputy political leader, members of the National Governance Team, Youth NTA, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for welcoming me home, because for many of you may have known that my political journey started just down the street from here in 2006. And after that experience, which had its own ebbs and flows, I felt, like many of you and like Paul would have made mention earlier on, that I had put in the work, that I had done my part, and I was happily ready to walk away and call it a day. Because as I look in this space, I see persons who would have walked with me, who would have rallied with me, who would have participated in the process with me, who was in another political entity with me. All of you would value and share that similar experience. And let's be honest, I mean, when you think about politics in Trinidad and Tobago, who needs the drama? Who needs the stress? I mean, who really needs the sleepless nights and the never-ending bills for those of us who have some of these bills to pay? Who needs the intrigue, the backbiting and the name-calling and the backstabbing, the physical and emotional threats for some of us who've had to live with that for many a year? Who needs the breakdown in family life and all of the other things that come with being part of the political process in Trinidad and Tobago? Who needs the fear of political victimization, of stigmatization, the elimination from state-based consideration? Let me repeat that, because I'm sure many of you are well aware of what I speak. The elimination from state-based consideration whenever you dare to rage against the norm and show that, look, I support someone else. Who needs it? And then, when I think about that, I consider a quote by a gentleman by the name of Martin Niemöller. And perhaps some of you would have heard this quote before. And it goes something like this. First, they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Now, you see, the period of that quote may be very different from now. However, the premise remains the same. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we are at a critical juncture in our nation's history where we can no longer afford to remain silent. A few days ago, I'm sure you're aware that we would have arrived at the juncture where we can, I don't know if you call it boast, or where we can state that we have recorded over 400 murders. Do we remain silent? Do we remain silent? We have become prisoners within our own homes, as Paul would have mentioned. We are afraid to go out. We are afraid to stay in. We are afraid to be in the yard. We are afraid to close the door. We are afraid to keep the door open. Do we remain silent? In many parts right here in Diamond Vale, in Aquamarine, in Upper Jasper, there's hardly a steady supply of water in Mocha, in Marval, in North and Central. Hardly a steady supply of water. And if there is water, I understand there's an oily stench that comes with that water. Do we remain silent? I also understand, as Paul would have mentioned, that there is a resurfaced area right here on the boulevard, which has been renamed the Bocas Boulevard. Maybe you would have heard that, and requests to undertake a simple placement of a speed jump right there along Jasper Avenue continues to go unheard. But do we remain silent? The question is, ladies and gentlemen, do we allow this consistent fear to continue to rule us? How much longer must we allow the fear to rule us? Or are we at that point where we are ready to transform the way we think, transform the way we approach things, and transform the way we approach the political structure in Trinidad and Tobago? And when I ponder all of those things, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm here. I am here because I refuse to give up without one more push, for what I know that we can accomplish together. This is not about me. This is not about me. It's not about Nicole. It's not about Gary. It's not about anybody else in the NTA. This is about us and what we can accomplish together. You see, I recall earlier on in the introduction of some members of the national governance team that we had introduced the political leader of another political party as a member of our national governance team, and many were aghast at that. What type of political structure is that? How could you have the political leader of another political party being a part of your national governance team? That's what you call transformation. That's what... That, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call the we approach. It is the we approach, because far too long we've had in our political system the us versus them approach. It is them versus us approach. If you're not this, you're that. If you're not left, you're right. If you're not yellow, you're red. We have had enough of that, because that does not serve us. I am here because I firmly believe, and this is no cap, but I do believe that the political leader, Mr. Gary Griffith, has the core competence to achieve the desired transformation required in Trinidad and Tobago, and that he can undertake this with a strong, visionary, and inspired team of persons who are not in it for what's in it for themselves. Let me repeat that. Who are not in it for what's in it for themselves, but who are in it to win it for all of Trinidad and Tobago. You see, because, ladies and gentlemen, transformation is not an I thing. We've tried that before. It's not an I thing. It's a we thing. So that's why you're going to see many dynamic and new ways of doing business, because we've tried the old ways of doing business. And you know the definition of insanity is when you try doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. That's just crazy. So we must, our young people, our future demands that we do it differently. And this brings me to the core of one of the pillars of the NTA governance model. Now, when the National Transformation Alliance was conceptualized, it was based upon a governance model that can be applied really to any framework. And the reason why I say it can be applied to any framework, because we've seen it happen before and we've seen the results. So we're not talking pie in the sky fluff. We're talking about something that was simple enough to be applied in any framework, in any agency, and it worked. And the results were there to show. And this model that we conceptualized is called the LAMP model, L-A-M-M-P. And it comprises of leadership, accountability, management, and measurement of performance. And it might sound so simple, really. It might sound so ridiculously simple, but if you were to sit back for a moment and think of this simple LAMP model and contemplate how or if this is applied in most of our constructs in Trinidad and Tobago, the answer would be no. Leadership. Everybody here knows that we're currently experiencing a dearth of leadership in Trinidad and Tobago, from top down. We know that. We know that. Accountability. Everybody here knows that there is an abhorrent lack of accountability in every system across Trinidad and Tobago. Management. Everybody knows that for those of us who work in some of the private sector, that management is important. And understanding how to manage a structure is absolutely imperative. But yet, when you take that structure and you put it within a public sector system, for some reason it fails. What is wrong with the management of that? And then, of course, we have measurement of performance, which for some, you rage against if you're in a system that does not measure performance. So it may sound simplistic, but guess what? Something as simplistic as that clearly is not happening in the public sector within Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why we're faced with many of the problems that we're faced with, many of the challenges that we're faced with. And, ladies and gentlemen, the first, and for me, one of the most important aspects of that LAMP model is leadership. And when I speak of leadership, I speak of transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is the style of leadership that is unafraid to do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. Like a former Minister of National Security, with whom I am familiar, who refused to lie for another colleague knowing that he would have been fired for so doing. That is transformational leadership. The transformational leadership is the leadership that engages the unpopular decisions. Because you see the end point, leadership that demands the old constructs because you understand the vision, like a former commissioner of police, with whom I am familiar, who dismantled a multi-million-dollar FUL racket and to this day continues to pay the price. That is transformational leadership. The leadership of which I speak is that which is unafraid to be the least knowledgeable person in the room. Like a former national security advisor, with whom I am familiar, who ensures that he surrounds himself with persons who will challenge, debate, distill, and rage against the norm. That is leadership that inspires, influences, motivates, and stimulates. That is transformational leadership, not the leadership that rages like a raging bull that we all know very well. That is not transformational leadership. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, when you bring these qualities together, it creates the perfect storm for what we in the NTA have coined constructive disruption. Let me repeat that. Constructive disruption. And that is who we are. We are constructive disruptors because we are not in any way interested in the more of the same, because the more of the same has not worked. So we will disrupt, but we will disrupt constructively because that is where transformation comes into play. Now, you would have also heard us speak a little bit about the Bridge constituency. And you see the lovely logo that we have there, the National Transformation Alliance. Our logo really is the bridge to the lighthouse. And you'll notice the little human figures there. The human figures form the bridge between the waters to the lighthouse of hope and transformation. The repetition effect in psychology, for those of you who'd be familiar with that, is one way of ensuring that whatever is etched in the human psyche becomes embedded in our minds. You know that when you repeat something at least 13 times, it's stuck there. That is a principle in advertising. As such, so when you hear those of us, and this is what we are, a centric constituency, because you have the constituencies who support one side, those who support the other side, and there are those of us in the center who really just float, and we shift our support accordingly. So we are the centric constituency. And many times you would have heard people refer to those of us in the centric constituency as third parties. Yeah? I'm sure you would have heard that. Have you heard that? And one really wonders, because I know I wonder, who gave other political entities first and second place? Who gave them that? Who told them that they were first and who told them that they were second, that they could brand us as third? I think not. As such, we in the NTA have coined the term the Bridge constituency, which links directly to our logo, the bridge to the lighthouse. We, which the ones in the middle, have historically provided the impetus of success from one side to the next, because when we swing, they win. When we swing, the swing happens, the other side wins. And the time has come for us in the Bridge constituency to lead to the lighthouse of hope, trust, vision, and transformation, and not just swing for the benefit of one person or the next, but let the benefit be for all of Trinidad and Tobago. It's good to be here. It's good to be here. And I'll end as I started, because I can go on and on and on, but I have to make way for others. Transformation requires all hands on deck. And I say that because, as I made mention earlier, you see we're all encompassing, we're all embracing. Now, we all know in politics in Trinidad and Tobago, it's if that one come in, I'm not interested. Or if that one is a part of it, I don't want to hear. That's not working for us. We have to find a way to get it together, to get us all together. And as I made mention before, it's not an I thing. It's not a Gary Griffith thing. It's not even an us versus them thing. Because that is the thinking that has gotten us into this political quagmire that we need to get ourselves out of. And you know, we in the NTA, we do not care, for those of you listening, about your lifetime membership with other political entities. We don't care. We care about you because we believe in you. We do not care about who you may have voted for in the past. We don't care. We care about who you're going to be voting for in the future. We do not care that you may have fought against us or tried to bring us down one way or the next. We care about finding common ground which our bridge can be stronger together, because that is who we are as the constructive disruptors that we are. We are the National Transformation Alliance, and we believe. Join us. Thank you. But before I wrap, you know, one of my favorite calypsonians, and the song that was played, it was played for a purpose because I really admired his music, and he's no longer with us. But the words are so very potent. And I know you know the words. So let's give him an ode to blacks. Because really it speaks volumes, not only for me, but I think for anyone who's had the political journey and who at some point got really tired of the beat down, the sweat down, the drag down, the this and that. You're just fed up of it. But it's important, never let your problems get you down. Stay focused and hold your ground. Because what do kill you should make you. So my problems is like steroids. I get my doses from all kind of sources, and all now them still can't kill me. You see them sink me under, I float. Right out the storm them just like a. So they just box me down so I get up. They have to wonder how I does get up. And every crack I see that does seep through, and by the help of God I does. I just won't stop. I feel like. Thank you.
I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk. Man better than monster, dismantle any structure, boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shot and bust up my jeans and step on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out my problems, kick out my problems.
I feel like, just right. Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you so very, very much. I felt the energy, the sincerity, and I feel the support. This thing feeling nicer and nicer and nicer. Yeah? For real. For real. Next up is one of our deputy political leaders, a lady who has operated in the Trinidad and Tobago tourism sector for more than 35 years. She has served on the Standing Committee for Policy Development of Sustainable Tourism. She chaired the National Carnival Commission and was a board member of NEDCO and TTCSI, among others. She is also a certified original pain therapist and trauma counselor, specializing in workshops on inner healing, personal growth, and self-development. Our deputy political leader who's coming to speak with us next is a member of the national governance team. Please make welcome Mrs. Lorraine Pouchette.
To show that you really care. To show some unity and humanity. Yeah. Now is the time.
Nicole did warn me that she was going to be a very hard act to follow. So let us give her another beautiful round of applause. But I think I have been placed here specifically to bridge the gap between two firecrackers and to give you all a little chance to calm down the mind a little bit, okay? So thank you very much for that, Nicole. Wonderful, wonderful introduction to who the NTA is. Now, that song you all heard, Now Is the Time. Why did I choose that song? It's a song from 1986, and it was about hunger in Africa. Hunger in Africa. How does that relate to what the NTA is about? It's about each and every one of us in this room hungry for the type of quality of life that we are entitled to. And when I listened to that song, and I sent it to my son who is away, and I said, what do you think? He said, oh God, mommy, that age in your boy, pick a newer one now. You pick one a little more relevant. I said, but there's nothing more relevant than the words, now is the time. Because now is the time, okay? Many of our artists, young, old, male, female, performed on this track. I thought to myself that really now is the time that all Trinbagonians, all of us, young, old, male, female, need to realize that we are running out of time to protect and salvage our democracy. We are running out of time to protect and salvage our democracy. Nicole said there's no savior coming to save us. If we don't do it ourselves, we will run out of time, okay? And we have to stop that dramatic decline in the quality of life that has been taking place, particularly within the last 7 years. It has been getting worse and worse. I have known this for quite a while. So when I was approached to join the NTA, I met with the team and was informed of their vision, etc., and learned of the others who were involved in the starting up of this whole NTA process. I realized that these were individuals of like mind whose main interest was to do whatever they could to bring our country back to where every creed and race finds an equal place. We say that, but do we believe that? We allow others to cause the division, okay? I did not commit immediately, as it has always been my practice to pray for God's guidance and that of His Holy Spirit before I make any decision in my life, whether it's small or whether it's big. He spoke to me in the silence of my heart, and I did receive confirmation that it is now or never. One such confirmation being words spoken by Archbishop Jason Gordon in one of his homilies. That was the final confirmation for me. And as I got that confirmation, I called and said, I'm in, okay? I also involved my husband and the children as a decision with such as this was too important to not have their support in the process. Because like Nicole, after the COP stint, I say, you see me, I done with it. Because I have a life to live, but I have children. I have grandchildren. I have friends who cannot and will not leave here. Some of us can, a lot of us cannot. Do we just sit back and throw up our hands? Whoever can help in whatever way, we need to do that. Don't worry about my age. I have a lot of life left in me still. Nicole certainly knows that. Many of you know me through tourism, original pain therapy, psychoeducational workshops, Congress of the People, some through trauma counseling, some through the steel band movement, and I'm married to a steel band man, some even through my days in the banking sector. I have always tried to give of my best in anything that I commit to. When I commit to something, it's all or nothing. I committed to that man 52 years ago this month, and I'm still there. So it's all or nothing. And thank you for the support, because they said you're going back in this thing again. So I commit to the NTA, and I'm asking each and every one of you present tonight to do the same. We can no longer be like ostriches with our heads buried in the sand and hoping that a savior will come and things will right themselves. That's not going to happen. We like to say that this is God's country. Sage spoke about that. But God will not do for us what we should and can do for ourselves. We need to cooperate with the Almighty in the process. He will put the light for us in the beacon and tell us this is the way to go. But you got to get up and go. It come like the fellow who was on top the roof and rain falling and flood taking place, and he begging God to save him. And God sent a boat, he sent all kinds of things, he even sent a helicopter. And he ain't take none of them because he waiting for God to save him. And when he died and he meet God, he said, why you didn't save me? He said, how much times I send people for you? How much times I give you opportunity and you didn't take it? You see this opportunity, people, you don't have another one. This is it. And you better get on board. So my talk is going to take, the central part of my talk is going to take a little shift from what has been happening before and definitely from what is to come. I liken our nation to a family system, where the family is a unit or team that is tasked with the responsibility to provide opportunities for everyone to get their needs met and to thrive and to have the opportunity to become the best they can. Each and every one of us has a gift or talent, and we must be given the opportunity to manifest same. Family is not just blood relations, but includes any and everyone who looks out for each other. So everyone in this room, and I know you are here because you are going to be committed to the NTA, is family. And this is the NTA family that we are seeing here, that is going to grow and burgeon into something that will be unbeatable and unstoppable. Let me share with you, I just want to share with you some symptoms sorry, some signs of a dysfunctional family system. Can I get another bottle, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. These are some signs of what in counseling we refer to as dysfunctional family systems. And I want to ask you, as I go through them, to just think if this relates to Trinidad and Tobago. One, our governance system I'm talking about. The system is rigid, unchanging, secretive, and closed. Do we see that? The system controls and chooses what feelings and what emotions are acceptable. Do we see that? Mistakes are punished and shamed. Do we see that? Awareness is based on what? Denial and delusion. Do we see that? Things are staring people in the face, but they are denying it, and they're delusional. Okay? Family members are supposed to support and serve the whole system. Do we see that? Or just some people being served? Individual boundaries are disrespected and dismissed. Do we definitely see that? The generations continue to repeat and reenact what they have been culturized to. And I use the word, and you can separate it and know what I'm talking about. Roles in the family and in life are assigned and mandated. So you don't have a choice by the system. So, do I live and experience the problems that we all do ourselves? Yes. But I see a way forward with the NTA. One of the main strategies that we are going to enforce in the NTA will be to focus on listening. To listen to you, to each and every one of you, particularly our youth. Too many times the adults feel that they have all the answers. But I truly believe that we not only need to listen to, but we need to hear our youth, as well as every other citizen. You know, when we're listening to answer. We don't really listen to hear what that other person is saying to us. Okay, so we need to start to listen to each other. We have many, many bright and talented citizens. Just look at our people who are succeeding all over the world, all over the world. But guess what? They got to leave here to get that done. And we are losing that quality, that power that we have. I heard a young 13-year-old telling her father, when you finish study, you're going to come back, and what you're going to do in Trinidad? She said, me? I'm not coming back here. It have no opportunity for me to develop a business and to move forward in this country. At 13? At 13, we are already losing them. And we have to take some responsibility because we have been comatose too long. Too long. So, in Trinidad and Tobago, the family consists of the individuals, you and me, couples, homes where families reside, streets, neighborhoods, communities. So nice to hear Paul talk about Diego Martin and the plans for Diego Martin. Very beautiful, very powerful community. Our towns, our cities, and of course Trinidad and Tobago, our country. In the past 30 to 40 years ago, the father was the breadwinner and the mother was the nurturer. You remember those days? Well, I remember them, but some of you probably won't. That no longer exists. Every member of the family has to contribute as required to ensure survival. We, the NTA, are not about survival. We are about thriving and excelling, as we know that with the right leadership team, we can become a functional and healthy family where all needs are met. Safety and security, food, education, opportunities, to name but a few. The National Transformation Alliance, as Nicole explained, our aim is to welcome and utilize those with the requisite expertise, experience, and commitment to empowering each other and every one of our citizens. It is not about self. If you are going to get involved in that because you're looking for a position, don't bother. This is about each and every person here. When I was invited to join the team, in no thought was it in my mind that I was going to ask to be a deputy political leader. But when that came, I accepted. Because I have known Gary, I have known Nicole, I have known most of the people here for quite a long time, and I trust them. I trust them. I trust them to be good leaders because I have seen that they have served. And leaders, good leaders, must be able to serve. We also believe that teamwork is the only way to affect the changes that we want. And I have seen that already in the discussions and in our meetings. I had the privilege, and Nicole spoke a lot about transformational leadership. I had the privilege of witnessing that firsthand and how it can impact positively on an organization. When I served as chair of the NCC, I met many good persons at the various managerial levels, but they were all operating in silos. I had to build a team and transform the culture of a dictatorial style of management where instructions were handed down. I had to change that to a participatory style. I had to build a team. I really loved my stint at the NCC as I saw, as a result of the efforts we put out, the attitude of most of the employees changed towards me, who is this little French Creole coming in NCC to try to tell us how to run we culture. They don't know our culture since I studied in school and listening to Pan on the boulevard playing and doing my homework by that. And they didn't know that I was the only Trini in my family, and my godfather tell me, my father, hello, this girl don't know nothing about her culture. And at 13 years old, took me to start to make mass and to learn about carnival. Guessing where? This will definitely age me. Mavericks. You remember Mavericks? Way. Uncle Errol, you remember that? Yes. And that is where I started learning about mass and carnival, and the bug bit me, you know? So, for me, that stint was a great stint. And they changed, their attitudes changed towards me and their duties. And when they recognized that I was listening to them and empowering them. We are the NTA about transformative leadership. However, we need for all of us to work together. In the words of Lloyd Briner, this is your land as well as my land. This is your place and also it's my place. So let us put our heads together and live as one happy family, democratically, educationally, etc. You know the rest. The most important thing here, the message being, no one can do this alone. We need your time, we need your talent, and yes, we need your treasure. We don't need to be beholden to any financer. We want your time, we want your talent, your treasure. Give in whatever field that you can give there. Whatever you can contribute. We can do this together. We can transform our Trin-Begonian family from the dysfunctionality that we are currently experiencing to a proper functioning system. I have come to the decision for me that now is the time. What will it take for you to come to the realization that now is the time? If not now, when? I thank you.
To show that you really care. To show some unity and humanity. Yeah. Now is the
time. I love that music too bad. Thank you, Lorraine, Madam Deputy Political Leader. Thank you so very, very much. I have faced the polls 3 times as an independent. Nobody can tell me about joining PA what? PA who? Is party have we where we is? I would tell them, party have we where we is. And that is true as well as it is not entirely true. It is partisan party politics that is the culprit, not just party politics. You know, when you're in a party and the party can do no wrong, that is a problem. That is a problem. If something right, it is right. And if you're doing tata, you're doing tata. We have to be able to say it as it is, without feeling victimized, without feeling fearful, without, you know, we must be able to speak up. We have to be able to speak up. So party politics was not in my future, in my cards whatsoever. However, a partner of mine called me, a fella named Tim. He said, what? He said, think about it now. And I thought about it because for me, leadership is everything. Trinidadians, it have a saying that Trinidadians lazy. I completely disagree with that. I find Trinidadians work. When Trinidadians go to work, they work. You mightn't see it here, but go and see them outside when they're in other countries and them can. Trinidadians work. We work. You know, all who's saying about the public service. Yeah? People who saying them public servants don't work. Check the wallet, they have ID card. public servants. They have driver's permit, public servants. They have passport, public servants. All these things. And sometimes you go there and there's a problem to get things done. Yes. But they work. Can they work better? Of course. Everything can be made more efficient in Trinidad and Tobago. But they work. The problem we have is everybody working, cutting grass, for example, and nobody on the treetop saying this way. Nobody's pointing, nobody's leading it. So everybody working all how. But my partner called me and told me think about the NTA, and I see Gary Griffith, boy, Gary. So Gary, boy, because I was one person who was completely dissatisfied when he was made commissioner of police, because I always felt they should come through the ranks. But I ate all of my words when I saw the man's performance. Yeah? And that's what we need. Leadership that delivers. That's all. Just deliver. If you had to be a midwife, deliver. Just deliver. You understand what I'm saying? So my friends, I have a bit of a note here which I will skip, because I don't have to go into a long detail about Gary. What I want to say is, this is a political leader. He's a member of our national governance team and is responsible for, and this is the important part, he's responsible for managing the NTA's relationship with the general public and keeping the team focused on our raison d'etre, national transformation. Please welcome Double G, Gary Griffith.
I was so hard-headed at first. My grandma didn't even believe in me. I kept going though. All I can say is I told you. Jury at the bank down the vault. You should have never doubted me. I'ma work to my last breath. I'ma hustle to my last breath. Yeah, you should have never doubted me. The pain and the struggle followed me. My daddy never bothered me. And these cold streets made a man of me.
You heard that song? They never should have doubted me. I will fight with my last breath for my country and for you. Good evening to all. Good evening to the members of the National Transformation Alliance governance team. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here tonight, members of the media, and for the thousands upon thousands who are viewing this live on the live stream. There are several persons here I would like to mention, but just based on that song, just two persons I'd like to mention, and it pertains to boxing. One was someone who was just about 600 votes from defeating Keith Rowley just a few years ago, and that is Rocky Garcia from Congress of the People. So he's indeed a Rocky. And then there's another boxer. He was a national champion, but more importantly, he is now the political leader of the Congress of the People, Mr. Kirk Sinnett, who's here. Thanks for coming, Kirk. And the reason I'm glad that Kirk is here, one of the main things that we want to speak about is that this is a new political party. Yes, it is. And we are not here to help other parties win. We are not here to split the votes. We are here just to serve, to do the best we can to make this a better country. People speak about blind loyalty. You must be PNM till you're dead or whatever till you're dead. The only thing that I see with blind loyalty should not be politics. You know what blind loyalty is? Blind loyalty is supporting Manchester United for the last 10 years. And you still stay supporting them until I think we finally turn the corner. That is the blind loyalty we want. Not politics. The blind loyalty of politics cannot work. And that third constituency, that bridge constituency, it started in 1981 under the ONR, 91,000 votes. 10 years later, in 1991, under the NAR, they moved to 127,000 votes. 16 years later, under the Congress of the People, in 2007, it moved to 147,000 votes. We now go in 15 years later, obviously, we have gone to over 200,000. And not just because of persons being independent, but because we have become independent thinkers, not because mommy and daddy said that I must vote for this one or that one, I must stay with it. In fact, what younger people are doing now is advising their parents, daddy, mommy, you don't have to be PNM or UNC or whatever till you're dead. Select who you feel might be the best persons to govern the country and to serve the country, and that is what we want. And when we do a lot of polls, and what we've seen in our polls is we have a very strong support for the young voters, the persons, and I'll say young voters under 40. So some of you all who have just cracked 40 and under, I consider you young. And in those young voters, what we have seen is that there's a strong demand for change in politics. And that is what we are doing. So especially for the younger voters, I ask you to go out and vote. I'm not telling you to go out and vote for the NTA. Vote for whoever you please, but play your part towards the transformation of Trinidad and Tobago. And to everyone who's listening, if anyone believes that this political party and this platform is going to be one of speaking about who horn who not going to kill who if you get horn, who thief more, who more corrupt, this is the wrong political party. They parang the wrong house. This is different. We intend to do just the opposite. We have seen for so long political parties deliberately try to divide the country, and there's a reason for that. So I'm not going here, and you're going to see me bubbling my head or whatever, trying to cause division. I'm not here to do that. We are not here to do that. In fact, what I want, and I'm saying from now, we will make mistakes. And as a political leader, even as a political party, when we make mistakes, I would ask you to let us know. Bring it to our attention. And that is the only way we can change. You can't have this situation where people just spend all of their time spitting hatred for individuals. There was a political meeting a few weeks ago in Belmont. They had 78 persons that attended the meeting. We have 5 times more, but that's beside the point. And all that you're hearing is everything bad about other political parties. That makes no sense. It cannot solve the problem. In fact, when that individual started spitting all his hatred about me, and then you saw the individuals clapping like, I actually went to SeaWorld. It reminded me of the train seals in SeaWorld. They were just clapping. And then they were texting me whilst the meeting was going on, apologizing for doing it because they said they had no choice. And that is sad. We do not want puppets. I mean, if you actually look at this team that I have, the one thing with Gary Griffith, I am very aggressive. I'm aggressive when it comes to persons trying to destroy my country. I'm aggressive to murderers, rapists, kidnappers, people who steal. Yeah, I am aggressive. But I am not going to be aggressive to persons who have political differences. So all of this has to do with the political maturity. And we intend to spend more time trying to find solutions, not trying to speak about the problems of other political parties. And a simple example is that this is a country, we are a nation under siege. In the 1st of September 2020 to the 31st of August 2021, it was my last full year in office as Commissioner of Police. The number of murders for that period was 342. It was the lowest number of murders since 2004, for 18 years. And unfortunately, due to hatred, evil, bitterness, pettiness, that changed. There was a reason for doing that, and evil prevailed. And after that, the following year, from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2022, 586 murders, 240 more murders than what there was there the year before. And you know, people always try to use COVID as an excuse, so let me clarify. In February, March, and April 2020, there was no COVID. You all could recall it was the safest carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. We were going down. We cracked it. There was a reason for that. And then after I left in September, October, November 2021, it was the highest spike in murders in Trinidad and Tobago's history. So let's not speak about COVID. Likewise, New York, Boston, Detroit, LA, Chicago, it was the highest spike in crime during COVID. So apparently the criminals in North America, in New York, and so forth, they missed the memo. So it has nothing to do with COVID. What it had to do with was leadership. And that is what we intend to bring to Trinidad and Tobago, the type of leadership that this country needs to move us forward. And how we are going to do that? We are going to do it through the LAMP model. Leadership, accountability, management, measurement of performance. Those 4 principles, it is what we use to transform Trinidad and Tobago in making it safer. And we were cracking it. We did it. So the country will need to decide which leader is best suited not to lead you, but to serve you, Keith Rowley or Gary Griffith. His leadership style is definitely different to mine. As I said, I am very aggressive when it comes to people who try to destroy my country. But one thing I assure you, I am here to serve. I listen. And I select the best teams available. When I was Minister of National Security, I did it. When I was Commissioner of Police, I did it. Look at what you're seeing now with this governance team of the National Transformation Alliance. They are definitely not yes people. I get complaints and criticism constantly because that is what we want. That is the way a team can work and a team can perform. If it is that you sit down as a political leader or even as a prime minister and every statement you make, everyone agrees with it, you can never change. And that is what we have to move forward with. We have political leaders that could probably, unfortunately, walk around naked and people will applaud them. We do not want that. I am going to ensure that we have the type of leadership that this country needs, that this country deserves. When we are part of government or in government, I give you the assurance that I will take full responsibility for national security for Trinidad and Tobago. So I ask you to decide Trinidad and Tobago, and whether it's your PNM, UNC, ABC, or XYZ, you need to decide who is the best person in this country to provide you with your most fundamental right of safety and security. And you have to look at it and you need to make the decision. Pulling out a party card and saying your PNM or whatever till you're dead is not going to protect you. You need to make that decision as to what is the best avenue to ensure that your spouse is not killed, that your daughter is not raped, that your son is not kidnapped. You need to make that decision. And making that decision by waving the party card is not going to help. As the Minister of National Security, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in Trinidad and Tobago's history. As the Commissioner of Police, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in Trinidad and Tobago's history. So from serious crime and then violent crime. And there was a reason for that, as I said, using that LAMP model. We intend to use that same LAMP model to transform Trinidad and Tobago. In 2018, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, for whatever reason, there was the least amount of trust and confidence in the police service at the time. There was 14% public confidence and trust. In that 3 years, I was given the enormous responsibility to transform the arm of the public sector that was seen as the most disliked, the least trusted. And it moved from 14 to 55% because we started putting systems in place to ensure accountability, making sure that we can put systems to look at and see that Trinidad and Tobago Police Service can be the best in the region. And it worked. The public started buying into it. They started believing in it. But you know, there's a saying that evil can't prevail. Just a side note, I've seen my aunt there, Auntie Bernice. I have on my mother's side, everyone on my mother's side, they became born again except myself. I remain as a Catholic. And they tried their best to get me born again. As the Minister of National Security, there was a night I went to their service. My aunt is the pastor, and this was in Diego Martin. And then when I went to the service, they had pastors from abroad. And they didn't know me, and they started praying for me. And one of them made a statement and said that my position as the Minister of National Security is just an OJT in preparation for something much bigger that God wants me to do for my country. Well, I didn't have a clue what she was speaking about. I said, I'm the Minister of National Security. I was in a situation where I had 9,000 employees, 120 buildings to see about, 1,700 vehicles, and probably dealing with that. I didn't know what she was speaking about at the time. Whatever God wants from me, whatever gift God has given me, I intend to use it to the best of my ability to help my country. And what I did is to transform that Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and it was difficult. When I had a Minister of Finance, he cut $300 million in the annual budget in a period during COVID where you needed more patrols, more roadblocks, more fuel, more vehicles, more overtime. He cut it by $300 million. The first 5 months of every fiscal year, we did not get a cent from the Trinidad and Tobago, from the Ministry of Finance. I had to run something with 9,000 employees, 120 buildings, 1,700 vehicles with no funds, and it never affected the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We continued to press forward. And some of the things we did, yes, we were able to, as I said, reduce every single major crime by over 35%. The public trust and confidence in the police service lifted. And crime moved from the #1 concern in the country to #4 behind health, education, and the economy. It has now gone back to #1. But the things I did, I took a hard turn on corrupt elements within the police service. I was able to reduce overtime corruption by $140 million per annum. $140 million. We had hundreds of police officers claiming that they were working 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, making $70,000 a month and signed by senior officers. They wanted me out when I put an end to it. We had that racket with firearms that we knew it was going on for decades and no commissioner of police dealt with it. No commissioner of police spoke about it. No commissioner of police put 14 policies I put in place to put an end to it because we had certain police officers in stations holding back FUL applications for years until they paid. I put only 14 policies. I put the FUL card with a chip. The chip was to ensure that you will know the number of firearms the person had, so the commissioner will sign and will know what it is, how many it is. It will also ensure that you cannot use a fake book. All of that was scrapped deliberately when I left to go back to the corruption, which is what they wanted. Certain officers, we had intelligence reports of officers supporting gangs, having cover, escorting criminal elements. I put an end to that by polygraph testing, transferring them. They all have gone back to their locations. Evil has prevailed. And that's why I'm going back to the point, it could only be for so long. There's going to be a time where good would overcome evil in this country. A simple example, the Special Operation Response Team. That was a unit that played a fundamental part in getting the country to feel safe. It played a fundamental part to deal with the rogue elements in the police service. They played a fundamental part to peg back the criminal elements and put fear in them. And this was deliberately done when they were shut down. This was done for a reason. The excuse or the cop-out used to say that 2 persons unfortunately met their death. That is true. And those persons would be dealt with in a court of law. But there were other police units, remember Mova, 3 persons were killed. We have other units that are under the Police Complaint Authority with over 30 more murders at the hands of those units than SORT. Why wouldn't they not touch? Do not be misled. There was a deliberate reason why SORT was removed. SORT played a part to put an end to kidnapping in this country once and for all. People did not know where it was coming from. We put an end to it. And then you have now, it was replaced by something known as the National Operation Task Force. And in the last 5 months, their biggest achievement was to arrest a lady for selling school books on the side of the street. That is what we have reached to. And this has nothing to do with the officers. These are the same officers, but it has to do with leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, I have no intention to go down the road of attacking any political opponent. I leave that for them. But something I have to do is to defend myself. I have heard this situation with Keith Rowley stating that he lost confidence in me. So let me clarify something. There was something known as a Barrington report. Barrington was a person who never had any involvement in firearms in decades. He was stationed in New York City. And then Keith Rowley brought him and used him as an individual. One individual cannot be part of a committee that signs a document. It was a 2-man committee. He signed it on his own. So he signs a document. He is as good as any of 1.4 million citizens. Keith Rowley takes that and then tries to use that as the excuse. That is a lie, and I'll tell you why. That report was submitted in December 2020. Keith Rowley and I will communicate constantly. He will tell me how the report, it makes no sense. In March 2021, I have information from several cabinet ministers when they told me they came out of cabinet and said that this man, Keith Rowley, just stated that if he could get 10 Gary Griffiths, he can transform Trinidad and Tobago. That sounds like a man who has lost confidence in me, and it was his biggest mistake. I challenged Keith Rowley to state that in cabinet in March 2021, over 6 months after the so-called Barrington report, you told your cabinet members if you could get 10 Gary Griffiths, you could transform Trinidad and Tobago in a positive way. This was the same Keith Rowley that in April last year told his attorney general, change the law because I cannot afford to lose Gary Griffith when his term ends. Because I didn't apply. I didn't look to reapply. That position affected my health. It took a toll on me, and I was ready to go. Keith Rowley told the attorney general, we cannot lose Gary Griffith. Change the law so that when his term ends as the substantive commissioner of police, he can act in August 2021. This was in April. So it was a lie. Something happened in June and July where the certain elements, the rogue officers in the police service, whispered to certain ministers who whispered to him, and he made that decision. And the country is paying the price. And Keith Rowley is responsible for everything we are seeing right now in this country. Let me refer to the National Transformation Alliance, that policy. The policy that we intend to put is to ensure that we can reduce the powers of a government. We have a situation in this country where one man and one man alone selects the president, selects the chief justice indirectly, selects the speaker of the house, selects the president of the senate, selects all state board members, selects the commissioner of police, selects the chief of defense staff. Ladies and gentlemen, that is known as democratic dictatorship. It has to end. When one man has so much power, he is going to lose focus. And our constitution was drafted in the 70s just for that. It gave you that dictatorial power to run everything as you see fit. And because of that, sometimes the animal farm syndrome comes in, that when you get in government, you forget what you went through when you are not in government. We have to change that. Our job is to get in government to diminish the powers of a government. That is the only way our country can change and we can move forward. We also intend to transform Trinidad and Tobago. That's where we are the transformation as well in the NTA. The transformation is not a situation that when you are in government and we win, for anyone to hold any position of authority to serve this country, you must have the party card indicative of the government that is in power. A government that wins, you have 300,000 votes. So what you have just done is totally isolated 1 million people who could be of value to Trinidad and Tobago. It can't work that way. The NTA, our job is to ensure we get the best minds available for the transformation of Trinidad and Tobago in national security, health, education, the economy. That is what we intend to do. We do not care. I do not care who you are, what political party you're in. And that is where sometimes people get state board appointments, and they're in state boards, and when I see these appointments made, these persons have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever in the state board that they're in. But you get that position because they were pulling the chair for the political leader during the campaign. They went and organized a little thing on the side. That has to stop. If you put the best persons available in the state boards will function. Likewise, the state boards are those that have the biggest amount of corruption because all of the persons are aligned to one political party. Our intention is to ensure that at least 20% of the opposition must be appointed in the state boards to put checks and balances. So when we select persons, it'll be the best persons for the job. I mean, right now you're seeing a prime minister who his talent is to look at rocks and stones when the media asks him hard questions. We have a minister of communication. His only communication to this country is to type LOL on a Rhoda Barrett page. And he's the minister of communication. We have a minister of finance who did not know the difference between a vote for goods and services and salaries. Because when I was saying that we were not getting a cent to pay for all of our suppliers, he jumps in parliament and says, look, I gave Gary X amount of millions. And I had to educate the minister of finance to understand you cannot pay goods and services with salaries. We have a minister of sport who has admitted she has never kicked a line. She has never played sport. We cannot be continuing to put square pegs in round holes. And I'll give you a simple example in transformation. I want to deal with sport. I mean, sport is something that is very close to me. Yeah, put on a few pounds, all right? Or relax. But, you know what? I went to the mall in Miami recently. I don't know what it is with Trinidadians. But the first thing when you meet somebody after a few years, hey, put on some pounds there, boy. And that's the Trinidadian thing. So yeah, that's only because I have an injury. But going back to sport, no government for the last few decades in this country has ever seen sport as a critical arm of a government. they continue to see sport as a by the way. And all our sportsmen suffer. There's a certain athlete. I mean, I went to the London Olympics with my family. We were there to see him get the gold medal. And he was given a javelin just before he left, and they told him, we'll lend you this, so make sure you give us back when you come back. This same individual was then put in economy seat with a gold medal for Trinidad and Tobago. And thankfully, the president of the Olympic Association gave him his seat. That is how we treat our athletes. And then when they get back home, you want to have motorcades, you want to name airplanes after them, and then thank them and congratulate them. They do not want that. We have national sports. I have been a manager of national teams for years. I've attended Commonwealth, Pan American Games, World Cup, and I have seen how our national players suffer. And then when they suffer, you provide nothing for them, and then you blame them. We have some of the best talent in the world. And then instead of us trying to develop them, we do nothing. We have a situation where I looked at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in the St. James Barracks. We had something that was a cemetery for 500 police vehicles. I transformed that to the only artificial football, sporting field in the Southern Caribbean. And a year since I've left, it has not been touched. We have a sport like hockey, where our national teams have traveled and competed in the World Cup among the best in the world. They cannot train because they cannot use that same turf. And then we have when we go to football, we have 2 national under-14 football teams, men and boys and girls. They were blocked from traveling because the Minister of Sport and the government said they had no money. Almost every island in the Caribbean attended that tournament. So Trinidad and Tobago is now so poor that our national players representing Trinidad and Tobago could not represent us. But in Cabinet, every Thursday, tens upon tens of millions are approved for projects under big kickbacks. We intend to ensure that sport becomes a core ministry, put in the effort to make sure and ensure that our young people can have the opportunity. Just before I close, because I really want to open for some questions, because I had something I was going on for a couple hours, but let me shut down here. Earlier today, I heard an Attorney General make a comment, because again, it's unfortunate that I have to spend a few minutes to try to clarify wrongdoing. When it is that a government believes that your job is to try to be involved in launching investigations, directing investigations, handpicking persons in investigations, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first sign again in dictatorship. Nowhere in the world. This is not a banana republic. And the PNM till you're dead or whatever, are you for real? This Prime Minister spends more time boasting that he's the chairman of the National Security Council than he is the Prime Minister. Because somebody, his little mini-me who travels with him all the time, right? He's a young guy. That made him get the impression that the National Security Council has operational powers. They do not. It is a subcommittee from Cabinet. They form no part of the Constitution, and there's a reason for this. The separation of powers. A Prime Minister cannot and should not be able to direct investigations. If you do that, then you as a Prime Minister, oh, by the way, he did. 3 consecutive investigations, no witnesses, no suspects, no evidence, no facts, but the hypocrisy of the man, when Special Branch sends a report about one of his own, he says, you can't deal with that because you need deals with evidence or fact. You are a hypocrite. Because every single thing that you came about with the audit report, it is alleged, it is rumored. And that is what we do. This is Emailgate reloaded. If you make the same lie over and over, hope that people will buy into it. And Parliament is the one place he can go and lie and know he will not be sued. I challenge him, your name man, why didn't want to come out in the public and state it? He cannot, because what you do is you handpick selective persons. So by the way, he selected 3 police officers combined with over 100 years police experience. Not one of them ever arrested one person for firearms. So what is the criteria for selecting them? I can tell you what the criteria is. And when you select them, they are so incompetent and they were so eager to try to lick up Gary Griffith, you never bothered to speak to Gary Griffith. Have you ever heard someone do an audit in a company and he didn't speak to the CEO or the chief financial officer? That is what they did. It was so ridiculous, it was amazing. And then, when it is that anyone wanted to question this, guess what? A certain individual a few years ago did the same thing when an organization did an investigation and they went for action to be taken, and he said, under natural justice, you cannot do it because you never spoke to me. Guess what that was? Land it. Guess who that was? Keith Rowley. Do so in like so. And then, to top it off, he breaks the AG. Well, you see, obviously the AG get a buff from him. He dropped the buff on the AG and told the AG to run and do a press conference. The Attorney General does the most ridiculous press conference we ever heard. He has the audacity to say that the headline, now, Express and I were not friends, but this is one time I could defend the Express. Because this man does a press conference and says, this here is unacceptable, firearms shut down. It was never shut down. He said that it was still ongoing. We have an Attorney General that cannot spell. It's S-H-O-T, not S-H-U-T. The man can, we have an AG who cannot spell. What they're saying, it was shut down. Shut down means that it got a hit. It pegged back. It hurt them, not S-H-U-T. Mr. Amo, I'll give you some spelling classes. But he did a media conference to try to justify this. And that is what we have to deal with. Now, furthermore, what they are trying to do is to try to regurgitate and bring it back by saying, okay, we'll just ask Gary Griffith now and move forward. But let me tell you something. There's something known as the Maxwellization principle. And that is the same principle used by Keith Rowley with Land 8. You have now poisoned the report. Because if you have individuals in that report who are so incompetent not to have spoken to me in the first place, you know where their direction is. 2, that report already went to the Police Service Commission, so you have now tarnished it by sending it there. 3, you also leaked it to the media. And as I said, 4, if it is you want to go down that road, well then are you saying that the police should then reopen Land 8, speak to you, get your evidence and get what you have to say and then move forward? Do so in like so, Keith. Ladies and gentlemen, and again going back to this situation, this is what we have to change. We have governments that spend more time going after political opponents than doing what is right for the country. In the United States, for example, if you want to ascertain the legitimacy of a claim, there must be sworn statements. And politicians just directing any selected matter being investigated. You just can't handpick your friends, pay millions of taxpayers' dollars, and then move forward with it. That is not how we intend to operate. We are not going to spend our time saying it's our time now for us to go witch hunting. As I said, this government has spent more time going after political opponents than trying to deal with governance of this country. And I could give you a bombshell here, if you think I lie. When I was a commissioner of police, someone just mentioned, good night, wife, how are you? Someone just mentioned, when she mentioned the fact with me standing firm. Yeah, I have been virtually fired twice for what I believe in. And I hope that my children and young people will understand that. Stand for what you believe in. Don't stay and just idly by, do something wrong because you want to walk. When I was told and advised I must lie to keep my job as Minister of National Security, I told them where to get off. When it is that politicians were trying to pressure me to go after political opponents, I have sworn an oath, ladies and gentlemen, on 3 occasions for this country. As a soldier, as a minister, and as a police officer. I will do it one more time. And all 4, I assure you, I will remember my oath in office. So when a government contacts me and decides to tell me, we are giving you $45 million. Now, before that, by the way, I couldn't get a cent to pay bills, lights and fuel and all that, I couldn't get. And then, thanks to Nicole Griffith, through I Support Our Service, which was something done all over the world to ensure that you have the public and the public sector work hand in hand with the police. That's why you started seeing so many vehicles, you started seeing police stations maintained, and the evil elements did not want that. They tried to diminish it. And now, all the vehicles shut down and all hell breaks loose. But going back, $45 million, and I am directed, we are putting this $45 million in your account, and you are to use this to pay these attorneys in the United Kingdom, and these are the 4 political opponents that you are to arrest. Any other country in the world, this government would have collapsed. Any other country. So you have a prime minister who is directing me to put and tell me this $45 million is for you to hire Bim Bam and Boo. And they are to hire, and these are the investigations. And we stay silent, And this man, when he starts bubbling his head, has the audacity to try to justify to say it's the role of the government to give money to the police. Yes, but not to order and direct the police as to how the funds are to be used. He gave me an order to make sure that these funds are to be used to arrest political opponents. And that is what I could not accept. But I continued to do what I had to do. And because I wasn't arresting them fast enough, apparently, he needed to find somebody who could do that job for him, apparently. And when it is that you have a prime minister who decides to disregard what the nation wants, disregard the crime statistics, disregard the public trust and confidence, and throw all that away because it's about me, that is the time a prime minister needs to go. So let us not fool ourselves. The desperation for the Get Gary is not just because I'm a good-looking fellow. It is basically because there's a fear factor that Gary Griffith could say and do a lot to bring down this government. And it's not about what I know or what information I have on my phone. It's about leadership. It's about me having the ability to serve this country and do what is required to make this a better country. Politicians have used fear. They've used that racism, the division, to try to divide Trinidad and Tobago for their own benefit. We have no intention to do that. So they will continue. And I have played tennis with the PNM for the last year, and I have won ace after ace after ace, because they are not accustomed to it. Because the mantra for some of them is, if it is that we can't control you, we must destroy you. And I have stood firm. And I ask all of you all, remember that, stand firm. And I ask young persons as well, the same way it is that I was prepared to lose my position because of me swearing an oath to my God, my country, and the people of this great country. You do the same. Remember, right over wrong. So what they have, the next game plan is, after he has failed miserably in this attempt of yet another audit after audit, which by no witnesses, no suspect, no evidence, no fact, littered with hearsay. And we now see, by the way, our government continues to spend more time and concern about law-abiding citizens getting legal firearms to defend themselves over criminal elements who have illegal firearms. 100% of all murders committed by guns have been by illegal firearms in the last 3 years. Not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used to commit a crime. I distributed 0.3% of the nation got firearms from myself. And 50% were given to retired and present police officers, soldiers, sailors, prison officers, because we have a bad system that when you come off duty, you have to leave your firearm. In other words, your family doesn't matter when you go back out onto the streets at the end of the day. I did what was right to protect the country and to give law-abiding citizens a chance. So the end result is that they've now formed an arm in the police service. It has been brought to my attention, where it's an unnamed unit, and their job every day is to see what they can meet, to see what they could do to bring down Gary Griffith. That is what we have reached to. And the vast majority of law-abiding police officers, I actually do not walk into that trap. I have written to the Police Complaint Authority, the DPP, the Police Service Commission, and the PSB to have this investigated. And this is the type of dictatorship we intend to put an end to, where you cannot have arms of the police service working to the directives of politicians because you might give them promises of a substantive post if you get Gary Griffith arrested. A simple example as well, people may not know. The special branch, which again, good quality, highly trained officers. Our constitution was drafted that the special branch reports to whom? Take a guess who the special branch reports to. Not the Commissioner of Police. The Prime Minister. People don't know that. It is a fact. I was the Minister of National Security and I was the Commissioner of Police. And I can tell you, they report directly to the Prime Minister. There are 2 special branch officers here tonight that are actually macroing and watching everything that is being said. Because... Now, Lauren, don't look around, don't look around. They're just doing their job. But I'll tell you why. Because the role and function of the special branch, listen, is to attend every political meeting by opponents of the government and report to the Prime Minister who attended and what was said. Ladies and gentlemen, this is dictatorship. It must end. You cannot have an arm of the police service doing that. So just before I close, as I stated, what we have seen so far in the past, we intend to change. If and when I lead this country or serve this country, I am not going to be running to President's house and treated like a post office to influence independent bodies. I am not going to continue to send leaks to the media or to try to pretend that I am a chair of a National Security Council so I have operational authority to deal with matters. From January to August last year, we had 252 murders. From January to August this year, over 400. If any prime minister ignores what is best for his country, ignores what the nation wants, and decides about it is all that I care about, that is not the prime minister we want. This is where we are different. Regardless of whether I like you or I don't like you, I will be putting the best persons for the job. The country comes first. I have sent several messages to the same individual because I put country first. I know what can be done. We cracked it. We pegged back the criminal elements. The country felt safer. The data was there. We can do it again. But because of small-mindedness, Keith Rowley, his mini-me, I won't call Stuart Young name, and the present acting commissioner of police, like little children, they block me on their phone. They block me. How could that help a country? I am willing to give you the advice. I am not here to affect this government. I'm not here to make life difficult for them. As a law-abiding citizen, as a patriot of this country, I want the government to succeed. I will do what I can. But if it is that I feel we can do a better job, I will then provide my services to serve this country. In the meantime, my job is not to be finding things to play catcher, but trying to find ways to help this country. And he has refused. A previous police service commission collapsed because of interference. And this, again, as I stated, in most democratic countries, that government also would have gone down. One man, before I close, cannot have such power. Some do enjoy that democratic dictatorship. But I remind you, yet again, this is not about Gary versus Keith. It's not about NTA versus PNM. It is about good versus evil. There are strong evil forces trying to control this country. We must prevent this. I will do all that I can to serve this country. As I said, I've sworn an oath 3 times for my country. I intend to do it one more time. And in that time, I assure you that I will serve. I will not dictate. I would listen. I will not summon. I would embrace. I will not destroy. I would unite. I will not divide. And I assure you that good will eventually overcome evil in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, they should have never doubted me. I will fight for you with my last breath. I thank you.
I was so hard-headed at first. My grandma didn't even believe in me. I kept going though. All I can say is I told you. Jury at the bank now in the vault. You should have never doubted me. I'ma work to my last breath. I'ma hustle to my last breath. Yeah. Yeah, you should have never doubted.
Thank you very much, Gary. My friends, at the start of this meeting, I said to you that we had a finite time, which was 2 hours. An hour was supposed to be the contributions and an hour for you. However, and we started promptly at 7. It's 2 minutes to 9. And I cannot in good conscience end the meeting at 9. So I'm going to say we're going to go to 9:30 for those of you who would stay. And some of you have already sent in your questions. And the questions that have come in are many. And if I only do these, I won't get to hear from you. So I want to just urge you, those of you who will come to give contributions, to try to keep it to 2 minutes. Yes? Think it through. Come and say what you want to say or ask what you want to ask, but just be brief. So I'm going to start with any member of the floor who wants to make a contribution, who has questions, comments, concerns, or fears. Please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and please, I remind you, please be brief. And then I will use some of these.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Roger Carrington.
Hi, Roger.
And I came here for a specific reason. but I need to give a little background. In the early 80s, my father was a manager of one of the state companies, and he was fired because he did not reinstate an employee who was negligent in his job after being ordered to do so by a minister. Fast forward to 2013, where I was a senior lecturer at university and also a judge on the environmental court. In the space of 1 month, I was also fired because the government in power decided that, and they verbally stated in the university, they were going to get rid of all of the people who were hired by Ken Julian. I was one of those casualties. Now, apart from my personal experience with the two parties and what we all know about corruption and mismanagement and so, I have absolutely no intention of supporting either one of those parties. When this party surfaced, I said, yes, this is something I'm going to support. But over the last week or so, there was something that came up in the papers that really distressed me. One of the members, the senior members, Ms. Nuala Hussein, was quoted as saying that the party has no difficulty aligning themselves or being in coalition with the UNC. That is really distressing to me, and I need some clarification about that.
Thank you very much, Roger. Gigi? I can. Okay, Roger, I will respond. The National Transformation Alliance, yeah? We're interested in alliances. If you are a member of any political party, you can be a supporter. But we are not looking to form alliances with any of those two existing political parties. We will not turn away any member of those parties who want to come and become supporters of the NTA. But rest assured, Roger, that's our position. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Good night. Stephen Broadbridge.
Stephen, good evening.
I just had a quick question about, I'm concerned with crime. Crime has always been like an issue. What concerns me is, and I respect what you did, sir, a fantastic job, but the courts remain delinquent. How do you actually fix a problem? The police could have all the cars, they could have everything organized, perfect, but the people go to court, they get charged, they're on bail for 10, 15 years.
You want to know what can be done with the justice system?
The justice system doesn't function. And if it doesn't function, not only can you not put the bandits away and the murderers, you also can't put the corrupt ministers in jail. You can't deal with corruption or anything if you don't have a working judiciary. And if the judiciary is in fact dysfunctional, which I don't think any of us could say it's functioning properly, how does government fix that? Because government is supposed to be separate from the courts. So I've always been a little concerned that if you are in government, there's not much you can do to interfere with court because court is separate. But court is the root of all the problems. It's dysfunctional.
Thank you, Stephen. You want
that one? You go ahead. Yeah. And in 2010, when I was National Security Advisor, I did in-depth research on exactly what you said. And that's why we formed, under the People's Partnership, with the Ministry of Justice. I drafted the Ministry of Justice, and it was to deal with exactly that. So the Ministry of Justice had to be a ministry specifically assigned to transform the criminal justice system. And not just about cases pending, persons incarcerated for years waiting to have their day in court, but also even as it pertains to persons who are in prison. We have some of the highest recidivism rate in this part of the world. About the rehabilitation of persons, it is terrible. A young person will go into prison for a misdemeanor and come out a seasoned criminal because of the poor systems in rehabilitation. So the Ministry of Justice was drafted, and it was comprehensive. Unfortunately, the persons who took over the Ministry of Justice, they spend more time trying to build prisons and so forth, rather than dealing with the transformation of the justice system. And that is what we needed, to transform the justice system. I was his national security advisor at the time, so nobody really took me on. They took what I did, they used the ministry, and it was not done for the transformation. And what I must add is that this is for us to transform our justice system. It again cannot be that if and when we win, just the 300,000 people who voted for us can be only those people involved in the transformation. There are very good people in the PNM and the UNC. Let me tell you this, I am not here, you cannot discredit and demonize all the political parties. You can discredit the hierarchy at times, because that is what usually happens. And so let us not put hatred on political parties. We can have disappointment for those people who have held positions of authority by those political parties. And if there are individuals on either side who may have the charisma, the independence, the capability to transform Trinidad and Tobago, inclusive of the criminal justice system, I would embrace them. Yeah, Brian. No, before that, this is Brian Stone. Now, if you look on Brian Stone's shirt, you'll see he has a yellow ribbon and a blue. Now, that is not UNC and the NTA, that is Ukraine's colors that he's been supporting. So let me just clarify that one time.
Actually, having heard you tonight, it could very well be from my heart. Why I'm here, I see many familiar faces here. I wasn't going to talk tonight, I just came to observe. Everyone knows me as a very staunch activist, political and consumer activist, and a very strong supporter of Kamla Prasad-Processor and the UNC. And I really only came up, Gary, because this gentleman asked a very interesting question. I'm here because you see that symbol of bridges? We share a common vision. We can't get to where we need to be without alliances, without bridging. Whichever party, PNM, UNC, COP, makes no difference. And I'll end just by this, Gary. I support you, okay? I support my party. I will not be against anything that NTA has to say as far as building this country. And you have my support from that perspective.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
President Gary Griffith. I claim in that. But anyhow, my name is Crescentia Steeple. Gary Griffith, familiar with Earl Steeple. That's my brother. I live abroad. I live in Diego Martin. I built a house in Diego Martin, in Bagatelle. I left for New York in 2001. And when I left, the country of itself was still in a bad state. And I felt hurt because when I left school with 5 passes and still couldn't get a job in Trinidad here, right? And when I reached out there, I did what I had to do, as Gary Griffith said, it have Trinidadian who does work. And I was one of them. But I didn't work and build there. I'm not ungrateful because they say don't damn the bridge that you cross. But I came back here and I built a house. And it wasn't easy. And what have me fear is the crime rate. Now I have 2 American children over there. I carry up children up there too. And it is fear to see that, because I want to come back in my country and live, right? But when I see what is going on, and still under this president, which they say the PNM and the die-hard PNM, right? I is not none. But I am traveling tomorrow morning, and me and my husband, when they pass up in Bagatelle, we said we have to come. I didn't want to come. But when I hear something trigger me, because I really don't want to be in the political thing too much. We had to put God in front now, all right? But when I hear a passion for the country. I hear a cry for the country, all right? And, you know, I say, let me put forth my face, you know, and, you know, it hurt. It is hurting to know that, you know, you're hearing your children, 2 American-born children. I have citizen and Trinidad passport, dual. So I could come anytime and go anytime. And hear what my 2 children say, the 14-year-old, he just turned 14. He said the president need to take a back seat. The prime minister, because he's so much thing, because he had too much power. You understand? So we don't, he said, Mommy, something ain't right. Something ain't going right. You know, and these children coming here small. I have even death in the family with a serious murder that take place up in Covine up there. It's my children and them. The father right now, he in certain place, right? So it dread the crime rate, you know? So anytime he come in here, this is what I want to see. You understand? The crime rate, which I know he was doing a good job, because up there he have good rating. He have good rating with the American, he have good rating. They say why he move, why they take him out. But you see, when you're not accustomed in bribery, you understand, you can't go there. You have to do what is right, right? And this is what I have to say. I am interested in the crime rate, right? And I pray God that you get there. You understand? I will be praying too, because the Bible says, you understand, where there's good leadership is goodness with God. All right? Thank you.
Okay, I want to go to one of the questions for the people who chose to, somebody trying to call me, no? I had to call you back. Right. Yeah, I have questions for you, boy. All right. I want to deal with this one here. This person saying, I did not see you at the Independence Day parade. Thought you said you were a statesman and you don't politicize things. Did you boycott just like the UNC?
Question, boy. Yeah. So I did hear a lot about that. You know, when I was in opposition, and I always heard this thing about boycotting this and boycotting that, I give you the assurance. You see me, when it comes to my country, the patriotism, that is not going to happen. I have always been very disappointed. The walking out of parliament, the deliberately not supporting bills because you're in opposition to make the government look bad, that is not how I'm cut. I will always make decisions based on what is right for Trinidad and Tobago. So as it pertains to that situation, the answer is simple. I was not invited. Yeah, I was not invited. Ask Mr. Jacob, the acting commissioner of police. I am the only substantive commissioner of police in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. That is alive. All the others are acting. That is Jacob, Stephen Williams, and James Philbert. I am the only active substantive commissioner of police in Trinidad and Tobago, and I was not invited. Now, every single senior police officer is invited to the previous retirees from the executive. They are invited, and they attend the functions. I was not invited. And again, it just shows the pettiness, the small-mindedness, but more important, I can't see the police service because the vast majority support me still. And I cannot see them doing that. That was a political directive of someone who apparently figured he felt he would be uncomfortable speaking whilst I'm there. And that must change. Where it is you become so politicized, you try to politicize the police service. So my apologies for not being there, but I really couldn't storm.
Very well. Okay, here's another question. I keep hearing you saying that you're going to reduce the power of the Prime Minister because of democratic dictatorship, etc. How can you change the Constitution without a huge majority?
And that's a good thing. You could have a beer, whether it's 21, 20 or whatever. Anytime a government is willing to state that I am willing to diminish my powers to give you, the opposition, more powers, they're not going to say no. And that's how easy it is. So the perception that you need to have that constitutional majority of 31 or 32 seats to be able to transform Trinidad and Tobago, no, you don't. Because any time that you have a government that is willing to do what is right and it is going to help the opposition, they would agree. If it is that I state that, or as a government, we state that we intend to put 20% of state board positions for the opposition, oh, they will say yes. If we intend to state that a government cannot and must not selectively handpick a commissioner of police because he can be vindictive and select someone who can target political opponents, the opposition would agree. So that's how easy it is. The opposition would agree because they will understand the value of it because they're in opposition. So we would have that support. What does not happen is that governments will not make that decision because of that animal farm situation. You're there, you're enjoying the powers of democratic dictatorship, and you're not going to change it because it's my time now. No, we intend to ensure that there's a transformation of Trinidad and Tobago through the transformation of the Constitution.
Thank you. The other questions that have come in here, in my opinion, you've dealt with them in your speech, in your presentation. Is there anyone else here with any questions, comments, concerns, or fears? Please come to the microphone, ma'am. I know I'd find out your name.
Good evening. Morena Mohammed Campe.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, hello. Because I've been a wife for many years, I know how much the family's purse means. Now, Lorraine mentioned earlier on that she wanted us to contribute to the treasury. And I wondered whether there was an account in a bank that we could put money into regularly.
Thank you very much for your question. How can you make financial contributions to the party? I don't know. Mr. Timal? If I have, I go hand yet.
Yeah. Okay, in the meantime, any other questions? Well, yes, please. Tim, you'll just give us after. You'll give us after. After. Yeah.
Okay, we all know the country is in a state. I need to ask you, what are you going to do for the children of Trinidad and Tobago? Education, their safety, the Children's Authority, rehabilitation for children who have been in violent homes, children who have been raped, the homes like St. Jude's, St. Dominic's. What are you going to do for education? You're going to continue with the SEA, which to me is completely absurd. A child should transition from primary school to secondary school seamlessly. They should be competing to go to university. Are you going to incorporate into the educational system occupational therapists, psychologists that will deal with the problems the children come from, broken homes, violent homes? They may have ADHD, dyslexia. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Okay, and again, going back to what I spoke about, and that is where we intend to have the best persons available to deal with the transformation of our education system. The example you just used of ADHD, for example, I think it's 7% of boys in North America have ADHD. My son has, and then when we went to the doctor, she started speaking to me and she said I was the prime ADHD person she ever spoke to. And the unfortunate thing is because our education system is so backward, those individuals are sidelined. They are seen as being mischievous. They see them as being troublesome. They see them as being not attentive. But by and large, if you look at people who are ADHD, they are some of the most successful people in the world because you know how to be able to deal with them and use their energies in the right manner. So all of that has to do with the transformation of our education system. And as it pertains to the persons who are vulnerable, the reason I joined the army, the reason I became a security minister, the reason I became commissioner of police is that I've always fought for those people who need to be defended. As the Minister of National Security, I actually set up and established the Child Protection Unit. And then when I became the Commissioner of Police, the gender-based violence unit, the sexual offenses unit, units to deal with persons who are being abused. I recall when I rescued 63 elderly ladies who were held in cages in St. Augustine, a cage from 6 foot by 6 foot. They were being beaten. They were being, tasers were being used on them. And people in this country said I was out of place. They said I had no right to do that. That is not my business. That is the type of situation we have out there with problems with elderly being abused, children, women, animals. And I have always put a strong fight for those people who cannot defend themselves. So I do give you that assurance there's going to be a massive transformation, not just in the education system, but how you deal with those persons who are vulnerable, especially in those communities, in those areas. Governments, what we love to do, we love to establish what you call these committees, and you form a report, Scott Drug report, Stanley John report, Judith Jones report. And all of these reports, all you have, it is alleged, it is rumored, and we have heard. And very little or anything can be done because all you do is you just get a lot of rum shop talk, you compile it, and you compile this dossier with hundreds of pages that have no substance to transform the problem, to deal with the problem. So that having these committees that are selectively handpicked by government officials to give people hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions, we have lost in all of these committees. Whether you call it commission of inquiries, whether you call it audits, that is not how you transform the education system. There are persons out there who have the ability, but we got to bring them together. We got to circle the wagons by getting the best persons available to transform our education system as well. Tim? Tim disappeared. Tim. Any other questions before? Yes. I think this will be the last question. Yeah. Okay.
Keith Ellis, what about income generation in the country? I'm an energy professional, but the industry, by and large, it has been scrapped. What will be done to revive the industry and even change the manufacturing industry, because it has huge potential? We need to hear that. We need to get money in Trinidad.
Sure, right. There are certain individuals here. We actually have teams, transformation teams with every aspect of the concerns of Trinidad and Tobago. One obviously is finance, one obviously is the economy. And let me explain how this goes hand in hand. In business, there are two things you can do to maximize your profits. Either you increase the expenditure or you diminish expenses while it's not affecting productivity. People are not aware that when you have this $50, $60 billion budget, at least 20% is corruption. It's markups. It's tenders that are done with contractors A, B, and C. The three of them get together. Yeah, I was a minister, I've seen it. They get together, A will say 10 million, B says 15, C says 20, but it really costs 5. And A gets the first set, then you switch it around. State boards, the same thing. State boards, we have persons traveling first class all over the world that have nothing to do with the board. So we are speaking about billions upon billions wasted because of corruption. And that's why I give the assurance. The same way I was able to transform the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service by reducing every single expense was drastically reduced. The Permanent Secretary of Finance at the time stated that the police service, we were the #1 public service agency that was submitting all our finances on time, and one of the few that never asked for extra. Because you give me a budget, you reduce my budget, I am still going to work within that budget and still ensure productivity. So the same way we were able to deal with the police service as a business, I intend to use that same model for the country. In each and every aspect, every single ministry, it will be ensuring not that we are just going to shut down everything and tighten a belt, but to make sure we diminish the wastage. I have been in cabinet. I have seen tens upon tens of millions of dollars in cabinet notes based on decisions being made. And you could see it's corruption. You see that there's no value for the country. Every single cent that is spent must be used towards the benefit and the productivity of Trinidad and Tobago.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Tim Timal from our National Governance team, and he has information that those of you who want to make contributions, so you might want to take out your phone or your pen and paper, he's going to give you the account number and so.
Right, so it's Republic Bank, and the account number is 340-801-815901. I'll read it again, right?
Thank you.
Republic Bank, 340-801-815-901.
And ladies and gentlemen, let me take the time now to thank all of you as we've come to the end of our meeting. I thank all of our speakers, the people who provided us with our sound system, the people who came in and put the plants and did all our decor, the people who put out the chairs for you. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your support. And may God continue to richly bless us all. Have a good night and God safely to your home.